In chapter 149 of Chainsaw Man, we see the city collapse to society in Japan, and it also really does make us question just how much we can really trust Nayuta. Because we're finally seeing how Nayuta truly feels and more of her true self, not the mask of an innocent little girl she's been putting on to make Denji happy. Because we see that when the flamethrower hybrid Baron was trying to manipulate Denji by putting in ideas to his subconscious by calling Nayuta the former Makima and a little witch. I mean, as mean as it sounds, there's a bit of truth in those statements in this chapter. The chapter starts off with Fumiko, Denji, and Nayuta hiding from a mob of people who are actually led by a false prophet we saw all the way back in the earlier part of part 2 of Chainsaw Man, who had predicted the war between the devils and the humans was inevitable, first showing us how successful the Famine Devil's plan really was in raising the War Devil's strength along with Chainsaw Man's really was. Because in less than a year, the general public went from loving Chainsaw Man for killing the Gun Devil, the most hated devil at the time, with companies selling all kinds of merchandise for Chainsaw Man, and thinking war between humans and devils to be impossible only in video games and movies, to showing genuine fear and hatred towards Chainsaw Man and the thought of humanity having to go to war against the devils of hell. And you have to think, while we're seeing this happening in Japan, Buro made it very clear that this is occurring all over the world. And Denji seeing this suggests that if he push comes to shove, he'll turn into Chainsaw Man, but Fumiko immediately reminds him that turning into Chainsaw Man in a moment like this will only get him killed, not only by the mob of people who will try to burn him alive, which we learned in the last few chapters would actually instantly, permanently kill him, but also public safety who already wanted Denji out of the picture, and now that Chainsaw Man is universally hated everywhere, I mean, no one would be against them if they decide to kill him. And here we get the first inklings that Chainsaw Man will be returning to the story very, very soon, given that the current situation and the world is in right now. Transforming into Chainsaw Man, while it isn't the best idea, does provide the best chance for Denji to defend himself, and also in Nayuta by ensuring their survival. And Fumiko states that transforming into Chainsaw Man won't be necessary since she's in charge of taking care of them. But Nayuta rightfully states that they really don't need her to protect them. After all, public safety couldn't even prevent society from spiraling out of control the way it has. And speaking for Denji, Denji doesn't really need anyone to protect them. I mean, protection isn't what Denji really needs. After all, he's been looking out for himself for pretty much the good majority of his life. What Denji and Nayuta as well need in this moment is a friend who views them as equal, which is something that Fumiko doesn't see in Denji and Nayuta. And although Nayuta doesn't say this is exactly the point that she's trying to get across to Fumiko. When Fumiko asks, well, what makes you think you'll be so fine on your own, Nayuta begins to take off her facade that she's been putting on and say it's because she's stronger than her and she'll kill anything that attacks them, even humans, who, while she's saying this, she does make very clear that she does feel as a devil she's superior to. Which generally shocks Fumiko, who actually questions Denji what exactly did he teach Nayuta, with Denji simply responding that she just learned whatever was on educational TV. And the thought of TV reminds Denji of the dogs at their apartment, which brings up the idea of Denji and Nayuta having to go back to check on them. But Fumiko rightfully states that they would be crazy to go back there. I mean, after all, the Chainsaw Man Church would just be waiting for them there to set a trap on them. And we actually see for the first time that Fumiko is actually putting her foot down and is ready to fight Denji and Nayuta to keep them from going home. It actually suggests that they should go to a public safety facility since it would be safe there. But considering Denji and Nayuta's track record of being at public safety facilities, which for them would basically be a prison, where public safety, if they wanted to, could kill them both at any point, it isn't exactly the best choice for the two of them, even though it is quite honestly the most logical one. And we see that the first instance that Nayuta isn't going to be getting her way, she actually shoots a chain at Fumiko trying to control her, who was fast enough to dodge it. But Nayuta wasn't aiming at her, but at an old lady in the building behind them, who she instantly controls to strangle Fumiko. And I like this moment because it's really meant to humble Fumiko, because while she seems confident and that she's smarter than Denji and Nayuta, which is true, she's arrogant to think that she was above them in terms of strength and experience. And had Denji not gone on ahead and tickled Nayuta to save her, Nayuta definitely would have had that old lady snap her neck, killing her instantly. And the fact that Fumiko was unable to escape the clutches of an old lady, I mean, it says enough on its own and sends a very strong message to Fumiko, who runs off after this happens with a sad, humiliated look in her face. And as soon as Fumiko is gone, Denji confronts Nayuta for her actions and asks if she was really about to kill her. I mean, see how little human life actually means to Nayuta, because she says that being a devil, it's okay for her to kill all living things, compared to how natural it is for a fish to swim in the sea. Because to Nayuta, murder is just a natural method of solving a solution for devils, not realizing just how wrong and heavy killing a living being actually is. Before Denji can respond to this, he directly calls him out for essentially thinking the same way, because Nayuta is taking a stance it's just in her nature as a devil to cause pain onto others, but she knows for Denji, I mean, he does the same thing for his own enjoyment. And asks Denji directly if she wanted to join him in ruling the world as devils. Because after giving a lot of thought to it, it would be fun because they wouldn't be poor anymore. They would have all the food that they could ever want, and even own an unlimited number of dogs and cats. When Denji asks her, well, what about your friends at school? She coldly says that she doesn't care about them if they live or die, and knows that Denji doesn't care either. After all of that, she's all that he needs, and this gives Denji a look of genuine terror, because deep down, Denji knows what Biram said about Nayuta is coming into fruition. With Nayuta's entire speech is meant to show off just how much Denji has actually failed at raising her, with it being very clear that Denji has actually neglected teaching Nayuta things such as the concept of love and friendship, clearly thinking that she would be smart enough to figure it out on her own or just through watching educational TV. Because if Nayuta understood what love is and what it feels like, she never would have said she wanted 100 dogs or 100 cats. Because while dogs look the same, they don't act the same, and they're all unique. I mean, they all have something that makes them special. It's why you ever had a dog that's passed away and you got a new one. Sure, they're similar, but they're not the same. You never share the same moments with them that made you fall in love with them and view them as family in the first place. And the irony is the fact that Nayuta loves and cares for the dogs is the reason why she wants to go back and check on them, but she's still set in her ways of thinking that, well, she doesn't recognize that she actually loves them. And just when Denji is obviously having a PTSD moment of Makima, Nayuta calls him out for thinking about Asa, and when Nayuta asks why Asa means so much to Denji, we finally get the reason why Denji likes Asa in the first place. And it isn't because she's got that fatty, but because out of all the girls that Denji's had an intimate experience with, Asa's the only one who didn't try to hurt Denji by taking advantage of him or trying to kill him. And hearing Denji say this, it makes more sense why Denji shut his mouth when you kissed him, because he didn't want to relive the pain of having his heart broken into a million pieces all over again. And the sad part is, the kiss that he experienced with Asa was actually with Yoru the War Devil, and neither Yoru or Asa even remember that moment happened. And Nayuta, understanding Denji's past, instantly understands what Denji is trying to say. Denji loves Asa. I mean, she's special to him for the same reason why Nayuta is special to him. It's why when Nayuta says, well, what about me? We see the real reason why she has this mindset in the first place, and wouldn't let Denji around other people. It's the fear of being left all alone with no one that would be able to understand her, and that would view her not as a devil but a regular little girl. It's why when Denji tells Nayuta how the love he shares for her and the love that she has for Asa are separate without saying a word, we see that Denji has finally succeeded in raising Nayuta by teaching her what love really means and the different types of love that's out there. Similar to how Makima taught Denji, for better or for worse, what familiar love and intimate love was, and what it meant without fully understanding it himself and being stuck in the same mindset that Nayuta was just in. And the chapter ends with Nayuta promising Denji that she wouldn't kill any humans, and the two head back to their apartment to check on the dogs. And that's how the chapter ends. Let me know, when do you think Denji will be forced to transforming into Chainsaw Man? Now that public safety is busy handling a national disaster, Fumiko ran off, and we don't know where Yoshida is. I mean, well, now that they're all basically gone, Denji is more or less able to do whatever he wants. But say what you want to say about Fumiko, she's useless, she's an absolute fraud, but she isn't stupid, and she was giving Denji genuine advice. And I'm betting come next chapter, if we don't switch on over to Asa and Yoru's point of view, I'm fully expecting a trap to be laid out at Denji's apartment that will force him to transform to save Nayuta, who, while strong, is nowhere near the level of strength that her predecessor Makima was, which is something that both the Fam Devil and Biram want for their own reasons.